with the 16th pick, Detroit Lions, I was going to get Decker, but you stole him from me.
I actually had Decker for the Lions, but I had to move him down because you put Conklin with Raiders. So yeah.
So with the Detroit Lions, we go cornerback, or we could reach for another offensive tackle, but I'm gonna just go with the defensive tackle. I'm gonna go with Sheldon Rankins to add to the line beside Alohi Knoxville. Sheldon Rankins out of Louisville is very dominant. He can penetrate in the middle. He can penetrate on the side. He's going to allow the linebackers to roam freely, and I think that's what they need in Detroit is somebody that can help get to Aaron Rodgers. And I think Sheldon Rankins at this point, if they got him at number 16, they would be tremendously happy.
I think that's a good pick because I think the Lions do need a little more presence on the defensive line, especially in that division that they're in with Green Bay. I think with this pick, had Conklin or Decker been available here, I go offensive line to try to protect Matthew Stafford. But if you can't have one of those guys, I say you go defensive line. And Sheldon Rankins, like you said, is a good pick here at number 16. Number 17, Atlanta Falcons. I think they go with Darren Lee, linebacker from Ohio State. And before I say anything else, I do want to say that I have Ohio State pretty much dominating a good portion of this draft. They need to build the defensive side of the ball, and I think Darren Lee is a good starting point to try to build that defensive side. I think he almost seems like a prototypical linebacker for the NFL. I think he could shine in Atlanta if they could just build a little bit of help around him. But I definitely think he's a star in the making. I say they go Darren Lee.
And the good thing about Darren Lee is he can even cover receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So he reminds me kind of, and I watched the Panthers, of course. Look at my hat, but he reminds me a lot of Shaq Thompson. So he is definitely going to be good for the Atlanta Falcons, and they will need him when they play the Carolina Panthers twice.
Yep.
So now we're on to number 18, the Indianapolis Colts. The glaring issue here is the offensive line. And I know we have the top 4 tackles gone, so why don't we just work with the center and then get the best center in this class, Ryan Kelly out of Alabama. He can protect Andrew Luck. He can open up the run game. He can help with pass protection. He's by far, I mean, it's not even close, the best center in this class. And this might be a little reach at number 18, but honestly, if he didn't go to the number 18, I don't see him falling past Seattle. So I'm going to go with Ryan Kelly out of Alabama for the Colts.
I don't think it's a reach at all. I'm going to give you 3 words, and then I'm going to move on to number 19. Protect Andrew Luck. Number 19, Buffalo Bills. I think they definitely go with Andrew Billings here, nose tackle from Baylor. I think Rex Ryan is going to the way Rex Ryan coaches a football team is he likes to build a really physical team, and Andrew Billings is a really physical player. I think he can help lead this defense to some huge plays. I think he's a perfect fit for Rex Ryan's Rex Ryan's playbook here.
Mm-hmm. They need a dominant force up front so it takes the pressure off the secondary. And Andrew Billings is one of the top defensive tackles in this draft class, and I don't see any shame in taking him. So let's move on to number 20, the New York Jets. Now, this could be the spot, ideally for Paxton Lynch, but you took him at number 7, so he's not on my board anymore. I'm going to just stick with who I got right now, Geno Smith, because we didn't re-sign Fitzpatrick for whatever reason. But I'm going to go cornerback. I'm going to go Eli Apple. D. Milliner, and I know you and I was talking about this before, but D. Milliner has been a bust. And I think Eli Apple is a huge upgrade over him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think whenever he suits up in the first week of the season, he'll probably be starting, in some capacity. But he's just that dynamic of a cornerback. And I think he would help the Jets. And I wanted an outside linebacker, but when you took Darren Lee from me, I didn't bother with it.
I think the Jets can go in multiple directions. If Paxton Lynch is off the board, I think you can go cornerback or you can go offensive line.
Mm-hmm. And I was struggling with that.
Yeah, I was the same way. Actually, on my board, I had an offensive lineman, but that's because I had Eli Apple. Yeah, I had already had Eli Apple gone to the Raiders 14. So if Eli Apple is on the board, I say you pick Eli Apple over any offensive lineman that's remaining on the board here.
Right. Yeah, I agree. They'll be happy if he was there at 20.
Yeah. Number 21, Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins need to... ideally, I think they need to beef up the defensive line a little. But I think if this man is... if this man's available... and he's still going to be on the line, but I think they need help in the interior line. I think they go with... I almost said, Shaq Lawson, defensive end from... I almost said Shaq Thompson. Defensive end from Clemson. I think they need more help on the interior defensive line. But I think if Shaq Lawson is available here, you go ahead and you grab him and throw him on the defensive end.
Yeah, Shaq Lawson... Sometimes you'll read mock drafts and you'll see him get picked as high as number 9.
I've seen him as high as number 5 with Jaguars. I've actually seen that.
Wow. Well, I mean, the thing is, Shaq Lawson is a really good defensive end, and I was hoping you would let him fall to me, set at number 30, but you didn't. So I think with the Redskins, they'll get a good player with Shaq Lawson, and they'll get back. They'll get to the cornerbacks in the NFC at least. No, I'm just playing the NFC. So now we're here at number 22, and it's hard to believe that this will happen. I don't think it will. But when you look at the Houston Texans, they need help beside DeAndre Hopkins. So you get the pick of any wide receiver in this class.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people say Laquan Treadwell is the best, but not to me. To me, it's Josh Doctson from TCU. First off, his hands are really good. And when he touches the ball, you wouldn't be surprised if it turned into a touchdown. That's just how good he is. And I think through the draft process, the combine, the private workouts, and all, he moved ahead of Laquan Treadwell. But I think what you're going to see here, especially with his next couple, is a run on receivers. And they know that. And they just want who they think is the best in the class, which is Josh Doctson.
I agree with that pick. That's exactly who I had in that spot. I think what they really need, like you said, somebody beside Hopkins. Give them a really good duo. I think with his sticky hands, Hopkins' speed, I think they can really provide a good wide receiver duo that will be hard for anyone in the NFL to cover. I like that pick. Number 23, Vikings. I'm going to stick with the wide receivers here. I'm going to go with someone you just mentioned, Laquan Treadwell from Mississippi, wide receiver. I think he didn't have, if I recall correctly, he didn't have a great 40 time, which a lot of people thought would push him maybe even out of the first round. But the thing about Laquan Treadwell is he's a big physical receiver. He's going to be a big target for Teddy Bridgewater to get the ball to, and I think that's really what Minnesota needs.
Yeah, and whenever I picked Josh Doctson over Treadwell, I kind of buried Treadwell a little bit. But he is no doubt to me the second best wide receiver in his class. I also had him going to the Vikings. It's pretty obvious that they need a wide receiver, and I think Treadwell will develop into a number one for them. Mm-hmm. And when you look at the needs of the Minnesota Vikings, this guy fits it. This guy will solve those problems. So yeah, that's a good pick for the Minnesota Vikings. And like I said, when I picked for the Texans at 22, at 24, I'm going to continue the wide receiver. And with the Cincinnati Bengals, 24th pick, I'm going to pick out of Baylor, Corey Coleman. Corey Coleman is probably the most explosive receiver in this class. And if you pair him up with A.J. Green, it's going to be nasty for defenses. And he's somebody, and because Cincinnati lost so many, they lost Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones in free agency, so they got to address the receiver. So why not get the most explosive one in the draft?
I had the same exact pick for the same exact reason. Corey Coleman is really speedy. He is a playmaker. He and Andrew Green on opposite sides of the field, that's going to be a scary combination. For any defensive secondary, I think. I had the same pick. I think that is I think that's the best pick that Cincinnati can make. 25, Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they go with William Jackson III, cornerback from Houston. The reason I think they go with Jackson is Pittsburgh has been trying to rebuild their defense over the past couple of years after losing some key pieces, but their cornerback position has remained an inconsistent spot on the field. So I think they're going to try to fill that hole that they do have there and go with the next best cornerback available after Eli Apple. I think they go with William Jackson.
William Jackson looks like a Pittsburgh Steeler, and he dominated at Houston, and he definitely deserves to be in the first round. I don't think he would get past Carolina if he was still on the board. When they pick, he's definitely. I'm pretty sure he's going in the first round, and he would upgrade that secondary so much because they spent draft picks on linemen and they spent draft picks on linebackers. It'll be good for Pittsburgh to pick a cornerback in the first, and William Jackson III is perfect, if you ask me. Now, Seattle Seahawks. They went out and they got Brandon Browner back. So it's hard to say cornerback or offensive lineman, but because when I watched a couple of their games, especially against Carolina, the offensive line looked pretty bad. So let's go get them the next best offensive tackle at number 26, Jason Spriggs from Indiana. Jason Spriggs can hang with any of them, and if you watch the combine, he was the star of the tackles, and he saw his stock shoot straight up. Because I want to say at the beginning they were maybe bottom of the second, top of the third, but he's really physical at the line, and that's exactly what Seattle needs to continue their dominance in the NFC West. So I would go definitely with Jason Spriggs.
I was going to say the exact same thing about Jason Spriggs regarding his combine. Is he was a second to third rounder, and he had a really great combine. Seattle does need help with the offensive line because we all saw Russell Wilson get beat up, and we saw their Seattle's running backs not getting through too many holes up there. So I think Spriggs is I think he's a good option for Seattle. If they decide to not go on the defensive side of the ball, I think Jason Spriggs is their best option for the offensive side.
Especially the next best. I think he's the fifth best offensive tackle.
Oh yeah, definitely. Number 27, Green Bay Packers. I have them going with Ashawn Robinson, defensive tackle from Alabama. The reason for this is simply because Green Bay needs to replace B.J. Raji, and I think Ashawn Robinson will allow them to move on from Raji very quickly. I think he's an immediate starter on that defensive line. I think he replaces Raji, and I think he does a good job at replacing Raji.
I like Ashawn Robinson. I definitely like a defensive tackle at that position. I had him getting Vernon Butler, which is a bigger Ashawn Robinson. He's more of a run stuffer than a pass rusher. But Ashawn Robinson is a good pick, no doubt. I mean, either one of those guys, that would be an immediate upgrade to whatever they have now. But with the 28th pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, you got to get help for your corner. You got it for Marcus Peters. So let's go get who I think is the next best corner, and it's hard. It's a hard choice between Kendall Fuller and T.J. Green, and the one they're picking is Mackenzie Alexander from Clemson. Mackenzie Alexander is probably the best tackling cornerback in the draft, and I think when you line him up with Marcus Peters, you're going to get a scary duo, and I don't think the Denver Broncos and Mark Sanchez is going to want to play them twice a year. But I think that's a good pick with the 28th pick.
I think the only position that Kansas City should go for in the first round is a corner. And I think, obviously they have to replace Sean Smith. And I think Mackenzie Alexander is a great pick there. I can't argue that pick whatsoever. Number 29, Arizona Cardinals. I think if Arizona's there, I think if Artie Burns is still on the board, I think Arizona is gonna go with Artie Burns, cornerback from Miami. I think so. The secondary is a position. Arizona had a really good team this past year. I think Their secondary is needs a little bit of adjustment, and I think Artie Burns is he's a really quick corner that I think can cause problems for some wide receivers for Arizona. I think he's the best pick if he's on the board there.
He's I know I said before, Kendall Fuller and TJ Green. Artie Burns is in that discussion. He's definitely one that could sneak into the first round and shouldn't surprise anybody because he is really good. If you add him in the mix of what they have now, because you got Tyrann Mathieu coming back, you're going to have a really good secondary, probably the best in the league. So sometimes you got to build, you got to make whatever is strong about you even stronger. So I wouldn't say that's a bad pick. Either of those guys, TJ Green.
Honestly, I flip flop between TJ Green and Artie Burns. But I ultimately decided to go with a corner and Artie Burns over TJ.
Well, it's not a bad. I mean, to me, it's not a bad choice.
All right, so, I'm excited to hear this pick.
This might take a little longer than the other ones. 30th. We're sitting here at 30, and we are the Carolina Panthers. Okay. So I'm seeing guys right now. Now I know what you're thinking, man. We just let Josh Norman go. Should we go get a TJ Green? Should we go get a Kendall Fuller? Should we go get a safety, Von Bell, Sua Cravens? And then you look and you're saying, oh, okay, well, you need offensive tackle. Well, all my offensive tackles are gone. Jermaine Ifedi might get took. I don't think so because I think he's more of a guard, and we have guards. Mm-hmm. So it brings me down a bit. And you could go wide receiver. You could get Will Fuller if you wanted him. I don't think we'll get a receiver this early. I do think we're going to get one later on, a little speedster. So you look and you say, right now, two of the biggest glaring needs is cornerback and defensive end. I say defensive end because we signed Charles Johnson to a one-year deal, which means more likely he's going next year. So who I have on the board right now is those cornerbacks and those defensive ends. And I spent a lot of time with Emmanuel Ogbah, and I like him, but I'm not going to take him because I'm going to take a guy who probably should have went in the middle of the first round, and that's Shaq Lawson's teammate, Kevin Dodd. And what Kevin Dodd brings to the table, I know that everybody's like, okay, why don't you get a cornerback? The reason why the cornerbacks are so good is because the defensive line is so good. Mm-hmm. The linebackers are so good. So if you add in Kevin Dodd, who is just nasty, athletic, and team him up with Coney Ely, and just think about that future, I think you'd rather have that and get you a cornerback in the second round or third round or whatever. Get you a safety in the second round. But in terms of best player available, you got to go with Kevin Dodd because I think Kevin Dodd, much like with Shaq Lawson at 21, they are way past when they should be picked. So if Kevin Dodd's on the board and I'm Carolina, that's who I'm picking. And I am Carolina. So write it down, Kevin Dodd, if he's there.
I had two picks here, two options. My second option was Kevin Dodd, defensive end, because Carolina does need help at defensive end. I'm going to get back to that in just a second. My first option, this may surprise you, and it may surprise a lot of people. Derrick Henry, running back from Alabama.
That's true. I left that out, but
he was my second option because if you look at Carolina's backfield, running backs don't last a long time in this league. Jonathan Stewart's been around for a while.
And he's not gonna play on that salary next year. So.
Exactly. So I had Derrick Henry, but my second option, if Derrick Henry happened to be gone on mine, was Kevin Dodd. So I like your decision. Jared Allen retired. You've got Coney Ely, who had 3 sacks in the Super Bowl. But I think Carolina needs to add another pass rusher with Jared Allen retired. Coney Ely's gonna do great things in Carolina, obviously, as he's already shown. So I think throwing Kevin Dodd in there, I think he's going to give them what they need in a pass rusher. So I like that decision a lot.
And it was an easy decision because he was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Derrick Henry, I don't know why I left this out because I would like Derrick Henry as a fan. You know what I mean? You always want the splashy players. I would like him because it's just the thought of him in the backfield with Cam and all the option plays they can run is just, I don't know, it seems like it's awesome because they're about the same size.
Yep.
But I think when you look at who's drafting, which is Dave Gettleman, he always picks the best player available to him. And I think if Kevin Dodd's there, and even if Emmanuel Ogbah's there, because if we would have picked Kevin Dodd earlier, that's who I would have picked out of Oklahoma State. But I think what you got to do is just think about the future a little bit because, like you said, Jared Allen retired. Coney Ely, of course, is going to stay, but you don't know about Charles Johnson. He's on a 1-year deal. So Kevin Dodd could get in the rotation behind him and develop into a great player, hopefully.
Okay, number 31, Denver Broncos, defending Super Bowl champions. I'm sorry. All right, number 31. What we'll do here, a little different for the last pick. Since we're only doing first round, we've got unlimited players on the board right now we can choose from. So I'll say who I pick as the Denver Broncos, and then you say who you pick as Denver Broncos.
Okay.
Number 31, I'm gonna go with Chris Jones, defensive tackle from Mississippi State. They have to. I mean, obviously, what Denver has to do, there's no question, is they have a big hole on the defensive line left by the new Jacksonville signee Malik Jackson, who was a big part. Yeah, I do. Who was a big part of that defense. Because there's no question that Denver's defense was absolutely insane. Unfortunately for your Carolina Panthers, they were absolutely insane during the Super Bowl. But I think Malik Jackson gone. I think you've absolutely got to address that position, and I think Chris Jones is the best option at number 31 in this draft.
It's hard to choose this because we don't know if they like Christian Hackenberg. We don't know if they like Connor Cook, if they want to even draft a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, this would be a spot to do it if they want to if they're serious about getting a quarterback. Now, if they don't like him, they can go offensive line or they could go defensive line. It makes me kind of flip-flop on the offensive line versus defensive line. Their defense is obviously good. I would know that. But if I was going defense, I would more likely pick the guy I was picking earlier was Vernon Butler.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. I'm going to pick Jermaine Ifedi.
Okay.
Texas A&M. And he can play tackle. And he also can move inside and play guard, where I think he's the best at. And if you're going to start over in terms of quarterback, I mean, even with Mark Sanchez, let's face it, he's there as a placeholder.
Yep. And
they'll probably trade for one, and they'll probably draft one. But you might as well go ahead and get him some help. And Jermaine Ifedi's a very good offensive lineman. I think would help him.
Draft starts in 6 days from today. Today's what? right now, Eastern
Friday.
Standard Time. April 22nd. Draft starts April 28th. So 28th through the 30th, right?
Yep.
Yeah. 28th through the 30th. So all you NFL fans, I'm going to be watching. So I assume you guys are watching. Yeah, right. So less than a week away. Pretty exciting. So let's see what happens. Let's see how terrible our draft was, our mock was, and let's see if our teams, mine and your teams respectively, can make the picks that we like.
And for the record, I picked Shaq Thompson last year.
It's true. Who'd you have this year?
Kevin Dodd.
But I mean, before our draft, did you have Kevin Dodd on your individual draft?
I had Emmanuel Ogbah.
Oh, okay. So we'll see. Hopefully, you know what? I had Jacksonville picking up Miles Jack, but hopefully Jalen Ramsey can fall to Jacksonville and they can pick him up. So, let's see if we can let's see how it goes. So, thanks you guys for watching. This was our mock draft edition of Project Polygon. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Nate.
And thanks for watching.